Amy, let me tell you about a magical place that is so exactly designed to be enclosed space, year-round fun for the whole family that I bet you already know what I'm going to say before I even say the name. Let's say it together on 3. 1, 2, 3. Great Wolf Lodge. You got it, Amy.
My kids loved Great Wolf Lodge when we went. You probably already know that it has a huge indoor water park with a wave pool, lazy river, a bunch of massive water slides. But then your pack can hit the other attractions because, wait, there's more.
Great Wolf Lodge has adventure-packed attractions like Magi Quest, a live-action game kids can play throughout the lodge, plus the Northern Lights Arcade. Spent some quality time there, so your kid who loves the lazy river and your kid who loves fantasy games will both have a great time.
Great Wolf Lodge also offers great dining options and complimentary daily events like nightly dance parties, all under one roof. Unpack the car once and you're settled in to have fun. And with 22 lodges across the country, you're always a short drive away from adventure.
We've both had such great times at Great Wolf Lodge, so bring your pack together at a lodge near you. Learn more at greatwolf.com and strengthen the pack. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fresh Take from What Fresh Hell, Laughing in the Face of Motherhood. This is Margaret.
And this is Amy, and today we're talking to Gloria Riviera. She is the host of the podcast, No One Is Coming to Save Us from Limonada Media, which covers America's childcare crisis and the people of all ages who are crushed by it. Gloria spent over 20 years as an ABC News producer and correspondent, covering breaking, investigative, and feature stories around the world for shows including Good Morning America, World News Tonight, and Nightline. And today she's with us. Welcome, Gloria.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Hi, guys.
Hello. So your podcast has just started its second season. It's an amazing podcast, and it's at a very uniquely awful time for working parents in this country and the childcare crisis that is making everything worse. So tell us about your podcast and how you came to decide to create it.
Well, we launched in May of 2021, and around that time, within days before our launch of season 1, I think it was the New York Times that ran a series called Primal Scream.
Yes, we talked about it on this podcast for sure.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were talking about that. So in that sense, I think the show hit the right time in this country. We had started production in February. It felt like a mad dash. But what Limonada does is they take issues that are super, super tough, and their goal is to make them suck less. So in season 1, we took a deep dive into how we got to this point in our country. How did the United States get to a point in which it is ranked along with Papua New Guinea, like last of the last in terms of what this country does for people when they become parents? There is no infrastructure. There is no help. There is no one coming to save us. So we took a look at that and asked why, and repeatedly said it doesn't have to be this way. And now in season 2, we're having that conversation on a weekly basis. So it's a little bit of a different format, but I get to talk to the smartest people out there about this crisis and what we're going to do about it.
And let's start at the why. What are some of the whys? I think that we've heard this story, we kind of acknowledge it in our own lives, but what did you find in terms of some of the whys of how we got to this place?
So many whys.
So many whys.
So many whys. I would start with the way that we view women, right? When they have children, juxtaposed with, we spoke to a historian who had studied Africa and the idea of a village. And when a child is born, everyone in the village comes to see that child and offers a gift. And there's this attitude of, oh, I just want to hold that baby. And I felt, and I know that my mom felt, and I would go so far as to say my grandmother felt, there was no one around to hold the baby. Literally, like, somebody just come here and hold this baby because I got things to do. So there's the way we view women when they become mothers and fathers. We spoke to a lot of men as well. There's the total lack of infrastructure around childcare. There is nowhere to go with your baby if you want to take a shower. I used to make to-do lists, and a friend told me, like, put achievable things on your to-do list. So I would put, like, brush my teeth, take a shower. We spoke to an American couple that moved to Berlin, where they have amazing, it's called Kita, centers, sometimes more than one in every neighborhood. And they will look after your child. There are therapists there. You can look for a job there. It's practically nothing cost-wise. So, we just have never taken a moment to build what we need in this country, except during World War II, when it was like, oh gosh, women are going to have to go to work. Oh, if they're going to do that, we need to take care of their children. So there were these amazing, in many cases, pop-up childcare centers all around the country with qualified, affordable, accessible teachers and programs that lasted throughout the war. And actually, Eleanor Roosevelt, when the war came to an end, in her opinion column, she said, bad idea to get rid of this. Bad idea. We need this. And they closed them anyway.
How do you think COVID complicated things? It seems to me that that's another moment where we should have risen to the occasion as a nation in many ways, that we kind of started to, and then kind of were like, maybe we won't do this. And
it seems like a lot of work, actually.
Yeah, having, multiple childcare places in every neighborhood would be a challenge when there wasn't a pandemic, but a disease made that worse. But there was this sort of decision as a society that the kids were going to need to stay home. And we didn't even have to discuss whose career would be put on hold to take care of those kids when they needed to be at home. It was the mom.
Oh, right.
Do you think that was on us, that we each accepted in our own households that our career was going to go on pause? Or do you think there were societal pressures around that?
I think both. I think the answer is both. I think that COVID crisis put the childcare crisis into technicolor, right? All of a sudden, it was acute. It was, and you guys have talked a lot about this on your show, there's so many issues that were terrible before COVID, super sucky, and then got even worse during COVID. So do I think it was the way we see ourselves? I mean, in my house, it was. In my house, it was like, my partner still went into an office even during COVID, and there was never a moment that I thought, no, you shouldn't do that. So yes, that I think that we do contribute to the ongoing childcare crisis, right? We don't stop and join forces and stand up together. And COVID did that for primarily mothers and fathers, but it was an opportunity to speak with one collective voice, to say, this is not sustainable. I cannot do this. And I'm hoping, and I think that there is reason to be optimistic, that continues, right? There hasn't been an inaugural address or a State of the Union address in which a sitting president has mentioned childcare going back to, for a long time. Let's just say for a long time, right? And so the fact that President Biden is talking about childcare, it is in the conversation, and that's a really good thing.
And you talk about the concept of the primary parent, which plays into everything we're talking about. Where does this idea come from? Amy and I think, both consider ourselves fairly forward-thinking people. And, I went to a women's college. I get it. But we still kind of end up with this primary parent default that seems to go deeper than even what we actively imagine about ourselves and actively think of as our default setting.
Yeah, I think that, listen, it's going to be different for every family. It definitely applies to my family. I think it goes a lot to, thank you, couples counseling. I can say he's not going to do it my way. He's going to do it his way, and it's going to get done. I was listening to one of your shows when somebody was talking about the egg pan in the kitchen. Somebody doesn't. Yeah.
Oh, that would be Amy talking about her husband. Let's just call him out again because he loves it when we do it.
You didn't have to listen long to hear about the egg pan.
Right. The omelet pan, right? There's an omelet pan in every household, right? So if I'm right, your question was sort of I'm aware of these stereotypes and roles that we play, but living them is a different thing. The depth to which they manifest in my own house is different from what I would have hoped it would look like. And my partner is a great partner. He's very present, but it's still difficult. It's still just let me do it my way. And that's my work,
How did your own career change once you became a parent? What was your own childcare journey? It seems to me like you must have had a very illustrious and busy career as an international correspondent. Now you're a parent. What's your childcare going to look like? How did that work for you?
Yeah, they don't really go hand in hand, do they? Another point at which my partner thought we both agreed that it would be a fine idea for him to be in Iraq in 2008, 2 weeks before my due date. Like, he was going to be back before the baby was due. And first of all, like 2 weeks, like that baby could have like been there, in a minute. So it took a while for it to sink in that I couldn't do both. And I just remember we moved to Asia, we moved to China, and there was a tsunami. I think it was in the Philippines. And I was starting to potty train my oldest. And somehow I was like, I can leave and like, he'll still get potty trained eventually. But you're so overwhelmed with trying to make it all work that it starts to not make any sense at all. I mean, listen, being a foreign correspondent is really hard. You get a phone call anytime. It's like you have to go to the airport that night and you don't know when you're coming back and you don't know, how hard it's going to be. And you really don't know what to tell a 3-year-old who's like, wait, what? You're leaving now? So eventually I decided to leave that.
Yeah, it's a very difficult job. I have a friend who's a foreign correspondent, and it's a very, very difficult job to merge with motherhood, parenthood. But it's also a parallel for we have a lot of listeners who are part of military families, and they deal with this all the time. The call comes in and they go. It might be mom, it might be dad. And, I do think that resetting our definition and having these conversations about why am I the primary on this? How is that affecting the way that our work plays out when things happen? And one of the things we always say is taking the lessons of the pandemic. And I think we did have to confront all of us in our households. Like, how does it work when the rubber hits the road?
That's what I was just thinking.
Because we maybe hadn't had those conversations before because we could always make do. But I think it's interesting to look at some more extraordinary circumstances, whether it's a military mom, a foreign correspondent, are we having these conversations at the right time? Because these situations are coming for all of us, as we've seen after COVID.
Right.
Well, that's what I would argue. Right. Like the tsunami in the Philippines and I have to potty train my kid. Like that's a very colorful, extreme example. But all of us look at the last couple of years we went through and we all had, the tsunami at our door. Now somebody has to stay home for 2 weeks.
Exactly. It's been a tsunami for everyone.
Right. It was the tsunami for everyone. Anyway, this seems like a good time to take a break. We're talking to Gloria Riviera. She is the host of the podcast, No One Is Coming to Save Us. And we'll be right back. For some of us, tax season is one of the only times that we look at our finances fully. And once it's over, well, that was terrible, and it is completely understandable not to want to think about it for another whole year. But using Monarch and being intentional with your finances in an ongoing way helps you see where your money is going and how you can put your refund to best use.
We are here to tell you, simplify your finances with Monarch. Monarch is the all-in-one personal finance tool designed to make your life easier. It brings your entire financial life, budgeting, accounts and investments, net worth, and future planning together in one dashboard on your phone or laptop.
Feel aware and in control of your finances this tax season and get 50% off your Monarch subscription with code FRESH.
As you know, my husband and I are preparing to send, 3 kids off to college, and I cannot tell you how helpful Monarch has been in showing us our full financial picture, helping us to track our spending and reach important savings milestones. Our weekly meeting, Amy, it's now run by Monarch.
Love it. Achieve your financial goals for good with Monarch, the all-in-one tool that makes money management simple.
Use code FRESH at monarch.com for half off your first year. That's 50% off at monarch.com, code FRESH.
All my kids learned to swim when they were little. It was super important to me that they be confident and safe in the water. There was only one problem with that, taking them to swim lessons. I mean, the pools were freezing. There were always cranky adults doing laps right there. And it was definitely not, for any of us, what you would call fun.
Amy, heard. But now there's Goldfish Swim School. Goldfish takes a really thoughtful approach to swim lessons, combining research-based teaching with a warm, kid-friendly environment that actually helps kids thrive in the water.
Every detail at Goldfish is thoughtfully designed to create a golden experience, from shiver-free, warm indoor pools to comfy waiting areas for parents to professionally trained lifeguards on deck.
Goldfish uses an approach called the science of swim play, which combines guided play with proven teaching techniques to help kids learn to swim, build water safety skills, and gain confidence all at their own pace. Lessons are designed to meet kids exactly where they're at.
If you've been thinking about swim lessons or just wondering where to start, this is a great opportunity. Right now, Goldfish Swim School is offering a waived membership plus your child's first lesson free at participating locations.
Just visit goldfishswimschool.com/free to find a location near you and enroll using promo code FREE.
That's goldfishswimschool.com/free, promo code FREE. So we're back talking to Gloria Riviera about the childcare crisis in this country. And I wanted to talk about some of the actual structural issues around the childcare industry, one of which is labor shortages. And there's labor shortages in all industries, but particularly crippling in the childcare industry, if I understand it correctly.
Yeah, no, you understand it 100%, 1000% correctly. I think there's a stat out there, which is that mostly across different industries, we've come back to pre-COVID levels of employment, except in the childcare industry. So the reasons for that are that we don't pay our childcare workers. We educate them. Like, you can get lots of letters behind your name focusing on early education and childcare. But once you enter the workforce, you're just not going to be paid a living wage. It's like poverty level wages. So other companies that have the ability to increase wages, and they're big name companies, you know, Starbucks, Target, Amazon, like all those places, start to look pretty good when you're just going to earn a living wage. So you have a labor shortage. You have childcare centers that are closing. It's just been too hard. There are a lot of really inefficient structures around childcare that make it difficult to stay open. One of them is the idea of subsidies. And for sure in season 2, like, this will drive our partners at Neighborhood Villages crazy, I think, because I'm learning as I go. So this idea of subsidies, right? Like, kids on subsidies get to go to early childcare if they're lucky enough to get a spot. But that center is only paid on attendance, not enrollment, right? So if you have 40 kids in your class, they are enrolled, but somebody doesn't show up because, let's just look at COVID,
right.
Lots of reasons not to show up. That center is not going to get paid, right? The money is there, but it's not getting to them. So that is slowly changing. That's just one example of why people are feeling like they're in crisis who are early educators. And we've spoken to so many people. They are so passionate. I mean, I would hope, like, most of us at some point have just had big love for whomever is teaching our child under the age of 5. And they're so passionate about their work, and they can't do it because they can't survive on it.
And are you saying that somebody can actually make more money working at Starbucks, getting better benefits, and working behind the counter at Starbucks than they can with an early childhood job for which they've gotten a degree?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, for sure. And at Starbucks, you're looking at like help with college, help with, all sorts of stuff, and good on Starbucks, right? Make that position really attractive. But we've spoken to a lot of childcare workers who hustle around. They have more than one job. And often it's also at a Starbucks or also at a Target or also a shift at, a Walmart, wherever it is, because they need that income.
And also, I know from my personal experience that within a public school, you think like, oh, well, public schools they offer benefits, and there are so many people who work in a public school. I have a kid who is on the spectrum who had an aide in elementary school aides, the people who work in the cafeteria. Like, there are so many people who help run the school who do not fall under the teachers union. And so you may think like, oh, well, this doesn't affect me because my kids are in public school. It does affect you. There are so many invisible workers in the chain of the people who help your kids during the day. Even if you don't have a kid with special needs, if you don't have any aides who are helping kids who need extra support, that's going to affect the way your child learns within that building. And I think that it can be very easy to tell the story of like, well, this doesn't particularly affect me, but it's a chain. It's a supply chain. It's a labor chain, and it will come to your door at a certain point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have a lot of friends in my own family who choose public school because of all that assistance, right? And when it dawns on them that, those are the people who are not in a union, who are not really getting the protection that a lot of people got during COVID. It's a really scary thing.
Right.
And it makes me think of the formula crisis, which is ongoing. Just this week, there was news that a big shipment came in, and I'm not going to have the right numbers, but it was specialized formula that came in. I watched so many news stories, and I was asking, like, where is this coming from? I didn't find out. But it's specialized formula. It's going to last a small number of people, their babies, like 1 week.
Right.
That's it, 1 week. And I've been in the grocery stores and I've looked at the shelves and I would be in a panic. All of my kids had formula and, there was nothing on the shelf. So I feel like, we're in this place with childcare. I'm an optimist for sure, but it's hard to be an optimist when these like sideways blows keep coming at you. And you're like, wait a minute.
And there's a waterfall effect. It occurs to me. If you're a childcare worker and you have to work 2 jobs because you're not getting paid enough as a childcare worker to do the work you're deeply called to do, and then you're also working at Starbucks, you need more childcare, which isn't necessarily available right now. And so then you have to leave the field entirely because you can't get care for your own kids so you can work in the childcare industry. It's crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of tag team parenting. So this is actually interesting. If you think of the cost of childcare right now, and it costs so much, it can be more than your mortgage, that's sort of the tagline. We are paying already, right? We're paying. There's a family. She's a social worker. He drives Uber at night. Somehow they make it work. But they never sit down to dinner as a family, which a lot of people say is a great thing. Doesn't happen so often in my house. Sometimes it does. But the idea is that's the cost for their family, right? That child growing up never has her family together.
And how is it? I mean, where are we falling down that childcare is so expensive and the workers are being paid so little?
Well, childcare is expensive because when you think of young kids and everything they need, it's very different from like a fully potty trained 5-year-old who doesn't need, that paper that when you go to your pediatrician, they put it over the table and your kid gets up on that. Like that's a cost, right? Also, for safety reasons, there's a lower student to teacher ratio. So you need more teachers. There's also, younger kids need, for example, nap time. So the structure of the day has to accommodate, a very quiet room and time for a nap. And so there's just a lot of things that go into running. I mean, that's not to mention, we talked to somebody in Boston at Ellis Early Learning, and she was like, then our aircon system went down, and that's over $100,000, So they just have, every school has a lot of costs. In early childcare, for all those reasons, it's just more. It's more expensive to run those programs.
And you don't have on the flip side the capitalist structure of, well, we can always sell more coffee. There's
right.
more and more coffee, right? So that you're making more money. Starbucks, great that they're doing all that, but they have a kind of limitless supply until they hit a market saturation of how much money they can make on a daily basis. Whereas a daycare center or a childcare center, if you max out at 20 kids and each one of those kids can only afford, realistically X number of dollars, there's no spring of money coming in. It's constantly just taking this pie and trying to cut it in smaller and smaller and smaller pieces.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And right now, so the labor shortage is twofold, right? You have people who are hustling and they have jobs at other places, but then you are left with the childcare centers and there's nobody out there to hire. There's no one, they cannot find people to come in and work there for the wages. And also, we had been talking about COVID. I mean, we have talked to centers where the head of the center said, oh, my director of finance was in the classroom today. Like they are just hustling through where to put people, where to stop the leaks so they have enough people in the classroom. So it's very stressful inside and outside, and we have to fix it. And the good news is some places have figured it out. So it is possible.
We are talking to Gloria Riviera of the podcast, No One Is Coming to Save Us.
My favorite skincare products actually feel more like self-care, like they're so nice to put on and they smell so good that I'm actually happy when I get to that part of my day. And I swear that is how I feel about Osea's anti-aging body balm.
Amy, you are usually the lotions and potions queen on this podcast, but I have to say, hard agree.
Osea's anti-aging body balm is a liquid silk body balm that combines the lasting hydration of a lotion with the firming power of a serum, leaving skin smoother and firmer.
This body balm is clinically tested and designed to deliver visible results you can see and feel.
So we've gotten to use this product for a couple of months now, and I swear I have really noticed firmer and smoother skin, like on the back of my hands. It's like getting a mini spa treatment from head to toe.
Get a spring-worthy glow with clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now, we have a special discount just for our listeners.
Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code FRESH at OseaMalibu.com.
That's 10% off your first order with code FRESH at OSEAMalibu.com. Amy, when I'm having a good hair day, it usually makes my whole day better. And that's why on every day, I'm taking Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand, and it's the #1 hair growth supplement brand personally used by dermatologists. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements are peer-reviewed, NSF certified for sport, and clinically tested.
Nutrafol offers multiple formulas for men and women, tailored to different life stages and lifestyle factors, so you get support that's actually right for you. Adding Nutrafol to your daily routine is easy. Order online, no prescription needed, with automated deliveries and free shipping to keep you on track.
Let your hair be one less thing to worry about. See visibly thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair in 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you visit Nutrafol.com and enter promo code LAUGHING.
That's Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code LAUGHING.
The new LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't undo your last hire. The lone wolf, who you thought was a good collaborator because you didn't have the right candidate insights. But once you hired them, it was all hoarding info, declining meetings, and howling at the full moon? But LinkedIn Hiring Pro can go deeper than just the resume to find you a perfect fit. By using insights from the LinkedIn network to give you a short list of best fit candidates. Hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post a free job today at linkedin.com/quality.
So we're back. We're talking to Gloria Riviera. She is the host of the podcast, No One is Coming to Save Us. We do want to talk about solutions. There are some things that we can do as a society and as individuals to try to address this situation. But I don't want to leave out a very large part of what your podcast is addressing, which is systemic racism in this country and how that complicates the childcare situation even further. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was definitely something that I wanted to learn as much as I could about that topic. And we started in season 1 by talking to a historian, and she took us right back to slavery and how we viewed women, right? We would sell babies as slaves, take them away from their mothers. And that was part of the way that slavery worked, right? And so pretty horrific place to start. Fast forward, what you have now are a lot of Black and brown women working in the childcare industry, and they are then placed in this role with the low wages, with all the stress that we've talked about before. And there's not a lot of focus on how to change that, help them figure that part out. One thing that I thought was interesting is we just spoke to somebody in Florence, Alabama, where they actually just changed the subsidy structure there. So they, in this one county, they will be paid on enrollment. But what she told me was many childcare centers actively don't want kids who are often Black and brown on subsidies. A, because it's a pain to chase the tuition, right? To chase the fees. But B, because it does change the culture inside the classroom. So I had to stop her and say, are you saying what I think you're saying? And I understand that that childcare director is making decisions to keep her business going. Like, I don't want to chase all this money that's so hard to track down. But that's something that really contributes to the ongoing systemic racism in early childcare, right? That you're making a decision not to have kids on subsidies inside your classroom because it's going to make it more difficult to keep your doors open. And I get it. You want to keep your doors open. But that to me doesn't feel like a solution.
No, definitely not. And then there's childcare deserts as well, right? In poor communities, it's even harder to get childcare because I guess, as you're saying, it's not sufficiently profitable to open a childcare center there.
Right. So yeah, you have these deserts where, I mean, my own mom in season 1, we were sort of having this like producing meeting. And I said, like my family, like we always heard that my mom went knocking on doors. She was 20. Her husband was getting a degree. She wanted to go get a job. And so she literally like walked the neighborhood knocking on doors. There was no like Google babysitter, nothing like that. And I was like, well, what did you say to these people? Here she was like 20 years old. She said, I need someone to look after my child so I can go to work. Mm-hmm. And that is really the way we should think about childcare. It's infrastructure. It's just like a bridge or a road. It's how people get to where they need to go, right? To do what they need to do. So I think in childcare deserts, which essentially the U.S. was one after World War II, and we shut everything down, you're faced with this very extreme circumstance where you have to say, what do I need? I need someone to help me watch my kids so I can go to work.
I love that idea of its infrastructure because I think that's something that people don't think about that, right? You need certain things to be able to participate in the workforce, and childcare is one of them. So building off of that, what are you seeing and discovering through your podcast about what some of the solutions to these sometimes overwhelming seeming problems? What are some solutions that you are seeing that seem realistic, hopeful?
Right. Well, like I said, it's still very much in the conversation. I used to think, why don't we just like draw down the public school system? Like that seems like a good...
Meaning move it and make it accessible to younger kids. Yeah.
Right. I've been warned away from that from some very smart people who have studied this issue a lot longer than I have. Mm-hmm. Not that we need to create new centers, but that we can work with those that currently exist. And they do exist and they can be expanded. And there's some I'm talking to you from Washington, D.C. The World Bank here has an incredible early education child center. There are places that do it, but I've also been warned away from this idea that businesses should provide early education and childcare.
Why is that? Because that seems like it might be a solution.
And private sector has some good solutions.
Right. And it's happening in the private sector. Patagonia is an incredible example because, guess who started Patagonia? A woman with a small child who was like, well, if you want me to start this business.
It's amazing how that works, isn't it?
I know. Wild, like crazy. They have an incredible program. In fact, they now have graduates of their early education system program that are now back working for the company. It's pretty cool. And when you talk to someone at Patagonia about it, they're like, I actually feel bad talking about this because what we've done is so incredible and everybody should be doing it. Mm-hmm. But the problem with your business providing it is what if you move jobs? Like it will really lock you in.
Right. That's right. That's an interesting point. It's funny how you think like this is the solution and then you think 4 steps down the road and you go, oh, wait a minute. It's interesting.
Yeah, that happens to me like 5 times in every show.
That's right. So then you're unhappy or you're getting harassed at work or you're having any problem at work. And then, right, you can't. It's kind of like healthcare is like that for people, right? Like you want to leave your job, you want to pursue something, but you can't.
And it also it encourages complacency, doesn't it? Because that means people of privilege who have good jobs with good benefits get good childcare. And so then it's not a problem.
Right. So like you guys are like the smart people I talk to all the time because they're like, oh, no, actually, this is why that's a problem. I'm like, oh, okay, got it. So then you're left with what we have now, right? Which is faith-based programs, right? Like childcare centers in your local church. You have home-based programs. And I thought this was really cool. Like think about a home-based program typically run by a woman. That's a small female-owned business, right? So like we need to be supporting those. And then you have these centers or nursery schools. So there are already several different existing places to go and support that are separate from business, that are not in the public school system, that have various tuitions and that are open to be able to participate in early Head Start and all the subsidy system that works already. So the conclusion is we have what it will take, but we need money. We need the investment, and it's going to come from taxes on individuals and large corporations. There's really no other place for that money to come. And by the way, really good idea, because guess what? You're enabling the parent to go to work, so the parent's going to be earning income and paying taxes. And really good idea because these little squishy brains need development. And all the data shows really good things happen when you take care of kids in the way they need to be taken care of at a young age.
Yeah. You got to change the hearts to change the policy. And you've got to have women saying, like, we need this for ourselves and we deserve this for ourselves. And this is part of how we work. And this is how we become specific kind of members of society that we want to be. This is not, some charity that we're asking for. This is part of, I love that line, part of infrastructure. I'm stealing that one because it's part of what makes our country work, is helping people care for their kids while they work outside of the home.
Totally. It's a basic human right, and it's a really good idea. So there are higher graduation rates from high school. There is evidence that these young people, when they grow up, go get a good job. It all goes into the pot that we're all invested in, which is our collective bank account in this country, right?
Yep.
So it makes a lot of sense. And I think, listen, it's still in the conversation. I love the fact that, Senator Joe Manchin from West Virginia, right? His name has been in the news a lot. In the state of West Virginia, they passed universal pre-K. It took 10 years, but they did it. It's a bipartisan issue. No one's like, we shouldn't have childcare. I mean, you cannot go out and have a conversation with really anyone on either side of the aisle who will say, bad idea. Like, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
And so you think that there is bipartisan buy-in and that infrastructure is coming?
Yes. I think the tough moment will be if you go to, someone at a big bank who's donated a lot to your campaign and say, okay, now you also have to put some money into childcare. That's a hard moment for a politician who's like, well, I also need to fund my campaign. So it's like changing the minds of the people, frankly, who have the funds to put it where, they will benefit, their company will benefit, their children will benefit. I think that's the tricky conversation that's, that we need to have.
Yeah. And it's definitely an ongoing conversation. So tell our listeners where they can hear you, where they can find you, and where they can continue this conversation with you.
Oh, my pleasure. Okay. So you can find our podcast, No One Is Coming to Save Us, anywhere you get your podcasts. And you can also join our Facebook group, No One Is Coming to Save Us, on Facebook. And I love that you guys do this with your unwelcome surprises. We do voice memos every week. I love to hear about your childcare moments, like the good, the bad, and the ugly. You can send me a voice memo. All of that information is in the Facebook group. And if you listen, I will remind you because we feature them every week and they're so fun.
That's great. And we so encourage all of our listeners to be part of this really important conversation. Gloria, thanks so much for talking to us today.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Thanks, Gloria.